Yo, Mark here for Mark's Max Muscle. And today we're going to be discussing this guy. He is Sergio Oliva. Born in 1941, standing 5'10", weighing as much as 245 pounds, he was a Cuban bodybuilder. With one look and just some knowledge of bodybuilding, and it's plain to see Sergio was at the top of the heap as far as genetics were concerned. From top to bottom, front to back, Sergio had no weaknesses. Go ahead, try to find one. You're not going to. In fact, every single part of him was exceptional. Sergio had an incredible 20-inch difference between chest and waist measurements. And as many other people can say the same thing, I am referring to his waist measurement being the smaller of the two. A little bit of humor there. He maintained this difference for his whole career. With a thigh that measured 32-inch and a waist that measured a mere 28-inch, Sergio was something to behold. Look at the arm here. Unbelievable. Notice the forearm, how large it is. It's much larger than most people's arms. No other Mr. Olympia winner can boast having a larger leg measurement than waist. This is simply incredible. Sergio is known for wearing t-shirts with the arms just exploded out of them, as you can see here. He was always seen in public wearing these. He would enter restaurants that you were supposed to wear suits and ties, and he would just walk in, and nobody would ever say anything, of course. It's Sergio. He'd shoot pool, whatever. Now there's what a bodybuilder should look like in public. He is one cool dude, I must say. Sergio has an incredible 20 bodybuilding titles to his credit. His first notable win was in 1963, as he captured the Mr. Chicago title. He's looking quite young here. I'm going to jump ahead to 1966, even though he did compete a ton through these prior years. But we're just going to stick to the major titles for now, and mainly the IFBB. So in 1966, he won the IFBB Mr. World title. Now being a world champion, he was ready for the Mr. Universe stage. And in 1966, he would earn that title. With momentum like that, and a Mr. Universe title under his belt, surely he was ready for the top contest in bodybuilding, the Mr. Olympia. And in 1966, Sergio would make his Mr. Olympia debut. Now, are you ready for this? He placed 4th. Now, I do understand losing to Larry Scott. He was the returning champion, of course. But how did he lose to this guy? Okay, well, I almost get losing to Harold Pohl. He wasn't the first Olympia, and he does look good, but really Sergio should have placed ahead of him. But how did he ever lose to this guy? I will never understand. You guys at the IFBB really voted for Earl Maynard? I don't even know his name. Earl Maynard over Sergio Oliva. Really? Wow. At the 1967 Mr. Olympia, the judges had received a well-needed eye surgery. Because this time, Sergio took the title home of Mr. Olympia. Nothing but redemption for Sergio. He had earned every bodybuilding title there was to earn. In 1968, Sergio tied Larry Scott's record of 2 Mr. Olympia victories. This time it was uncontested. No one was man enough to pose against this huge Adonis. Just look at him. No one was man enough, that is, until 1969 at the Mr. Olympia Competition, where a young Austrian, perhaps you've heard of him, his name was Arnold Schwarzenegger. He would vie for Sergio's title that year. This would be Sergio's victory. He was now a 3-time Mr. Olympia Champion, breaking the previous record. So, on to the 1970 Mr. Olympia Competition. It was pretty much between Sergio and Arnie. There was one other guy. Reg something. Not Reg Park. It was close that year, depending on what you prefer between Arnold and Sergio. Now, personally, I prefer Sergio's physique much better than Arnold's. But again, it's apples and oranges. You're going to hear that a lot in bodybuilding. But Arnold was greatly improved that year. And you got to give the devil his due. Another comparison here. Again, I like Sergio in this shot because of the small waist, but there's arguments for Arnold's case too. His legs are quite separated here. Now let's have a classic Marx Max Muscle biased picture. Of course, I'm a fan of Arnold, but I'm a huge fan of Sergio, so I like Sergio. Whoa, it's plain to see Sergio's got it for sure here. Anyway, enough of that foolishness. When the smoke cleared, Arnold was awarded the Mr. Olympia title. Sergio would place a disappointing 2nd. Now, here's where things get interesting. In 1971, Sergio competed for the NABA promotion, or the NABB. This was a big no-no, because the IFBB did not allow their athletes to compete in any rival companies. Worse than that, Sergio would run into a brick wall by the name of Bill Pearl. They would go head-to-head at the NABA Pro Mr. Universe competition. Sergio would lose to Bill Pearl. And in doing so, he was eliminated from the 1971 Mr. Olympia competition. At the 1972 Mr. Olympia, we would get to see the long-awaited rematch between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sergio Oliva. Sergio was greatly improved. He looked great this year, as did Arnold. But I believe Sergio brought the better package. But opinions are just that. Arnold held on to the title. Highly disputed decision. After that loss, Sergio would leave the IFBB and competed for several other organizations, with great success, I might add. In 1984, we would see Sergio Oliva return to the Olympia stage. By now, competition was stiffer than ever. Sergio, of course 40+ years old, he still held his own and placed a respectable 8th place. In 1985, Mr. Olympia, he would make another return at the Mr. Olympia, and he actually improved from the year before. But, of course, showing how much competition was growing, he maintained his 8th place position. And this would not only be Sergio's last Olympia, but this would be the last time Sergio Oliva competed in bodybuilding. Sergio will undoubtedly go down in history for being the only man ever to beat Arnold Schwarzenegger on the Olympia stage. He possessed perhaps the greatest genetics of all time in bodybuilding. He is undoubtedly one of the greatest bodybuilders to ever grace the stage. He is a 3-time Mr. Olympia Champion. He is the myth. He is Sergio Oliva. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. That's it for now. This is Mark for Mark's Max Muscle.